Hi guys, I'm in the shop. I'll show you what I'm up to, upcoming projects and things I am doing. So my mate Phil has dropped this off, and it is a I think it was manufactured in about 1915ish it's from the Remington rifle company, and it's a First World War bayonet, and it belongs to a friend of his. And he wants me to just tidy it up. It's a lovely thing, it really is, but it's just in a bit of a mess. I'm not going to do too much to it because I don't want to spoil it. It's got a leather sheath or scabbard tipped in metal, which is quite rusty, and the leather's a bit of a mess as well on it, and the leather's really dry. So I'm going to clean up the leather and condition it and get it nice and supple again with hiccups. And I'm not going to over clean these ends because I think if I take it back to, you know, real shiny it just won't look right. So I'm literally going to just try and knock some of the rust off and then buff it and maybe oil it, you know. Put some kind of oil on it, an oil finish. You can see there the amount of rust that's built up on the surface, and I think the handles are walnut, but they're heavily coated in oil. They're heavily coated in oil, probably just machine oil from the guy who was cleaning his gun. Probably did the same thing with his bayonet, but somebody's been bashing that there with something round as ring marks in it. The blade isn't actually in too bad a condition, although somebody's been sharpening it and made a bit of a mess of it. You can see there, and at further spots along that edge. So I'm just going to clean that up with a nice grind and just try and clean that up a bit. I'll probably take the grind to the worst of the area there where it looks like someone's had a grinder on it or something. So I'll take it from there to a point. I won't remove too much material on it, you know. I'll probably just do a convex grind on it, and it'll look nice, that then. I've taken the screws out of this. It was a task because they were just rusted solid in there. Them little scales off, and what I am going to do with them, I'm just going to sand them back and get all that rough, I'll get that damage off them, and then re-oil them. They're never going to be light coloured then, because as I say, they are just lathered in oil then. Yeah, this thing is just stamped everywhere, obviously by the Remington company who manufactured it. I guess as it went through various stages of manufacture, the guy who was working on it put his stamp on to say that he'd done his bit or his part, or, you know, it was tested, it's stamped under there. Even the back of the scales are stamped on it, you know. But yeah, it's a lovely thing, it is. And I really enjoy restoring things like that without over restoring them. Video this and I'll show you what I'm going to do to it without over restoring it. You can see the surface rust that's built up on this here. Well, I did a little bit of just a trial experiment on it last night by gently taking some of that rust off without taking too much off, and just buffing the surface and to get this sort of appearance, just to clean it really, because the original finish would have been something like that there. So we're going to try and get close to that, as close to that as possible anyway. So it's staying in the family, and it just needs a bit of care and attention, you know, to bring it back to how it should look. Next projects are my Bowie knife. The previous guard I made, which I did like, and so it was, I actually threw the guard onto the floor just because it looked really thin to me, and I was right, because the end broke off it. I'd just made it too slender, so it wasn't really practical. So I'm making another guard. I've got a piece of old annealed leaf spring there, which I'm going to make my front guard from. I'm probably doing this today actually, and I'll film this process of the Bowie. I'm going to have to repolish this Bowie to bring the hamon out, because with it being lying around on the bench, it's just got marked and scratched and bits of things flicked on it. And also wanted to show you something that Paul had sent me, which is, I was absolutely gobsmacked when this arrived. Just beautiful. Look at that. Claro walnut. And another piece there. Just stunning. Absolutely stunning. So Paul, if you're watching, thank you so much, my friend. You're going to see that on some stunning knives in the very near future. Love it. My other project is my little folder, my little Damascus folder, which is a feather pattern, which I did make a frame for, but I don't like it. Don't like it. So I'm about to make a new frame. I cut my brass out last night for it, and I'm using some alder root, or just alder, stabilised alder. I just like that so much. I picked that up at a show a couple of years ago, or was it last year? I just saw it on the bench and I just thought, wow, got to have that. So I bought that. It's been dyed, so I'm using that as the scales. I'm going to slice that right down the centre. I'm going to have a really thin, lean look to this knife. Whether it comes off or not, I don't know, because it's a pretty hefty blade. Now the reason I need my lathe up and running is I'm going to try something slightly different with this folder. I always use these little phosphor bronze bushings as a wrapped around the pivot pin on my folders. But what I do is I put a 5mm brass pin through the centre and then I pin it over. Well, I'm going to try something slightly different. I'm going to thread the centre of that and put an M6 bolt into each side, so I can kind of lock this down, and I'm going to machine the head out so there's just a slight flare. I'll take the head down on the lathe and just machine it so there's just a very slight flare to grip each side of the frame. So I'll be tightening them in against each other. I'm putting some Loctite thread lock on them or something just to hold everything in place. So here is my lathe. It's a Boxford precision lathe from the 1940s, as good as I can gather, around 1945-46, built in England then. It's a nice construction. It's pretty solid little thing, you know. Everything is cast on it. It didn't arrive in this condition, I can assure you of that. It was a proper mess, and I've spent a lot of time, stripped it down to every single component, cleaned it, repainted, etc. So everything works now on it. I've had to straighten the lead screw on this and make a new bushing for the lead screw. My friend Jerry did that for me. I've still got the bushing to replace on that one because it's slightly worn. There's a lot of lash in that before it will actually turn, so that's not a problem. I bought a new chuck for it, a Jacobs chuck. The tailstock, everything works really nice. That's got a self-releasing chuck on it. M1 taper chuck or spindle. I've wired it. It did come with this pulley on it. However, the pulley from the motor end was missing, and there was no motor. So rather than go for a flat belted pulley, I've done a conversion on it and I've fitted a little 3-phase motor to it and had a new pulley made. for the shaft. Now my main problem has been that this is so worn. It's really been abused, this lathe, over the years, used and abused, and I suspect what happened is these oilers when I got it were just completely bunged up with crud, so they've never been used for years, and someone's been running this lathe without any oil in the head bearing. There's actually no shells or bearings in this headstock. It's just a straight cast iron casting, and it's machined out for the spindle to run in. But the trouble is it's way down on what it should be. It's about 1 millimetre worn into the actual casting, so it should be up there somewhere, but there's also a lot of sideways wiggle in it. Now what I've done, I did cast a brass shim in there, because that is the wear as it came. You can see that it is horrendous. So there's never going to be any accurate work done on this being in that condition. I also bought this 3-jaw chuck for it, and I will show you what I mean. So that is a machined piece of silver steel. That is dead straight, and in order to line it up to the tailstock, we're needing to, I'll bring you in a bit closer actually so you can see. In order to get that true, I'm having to lift it up there. So it's about 1 millimetre low. So like I said, I put that brass bushing in wherever it's gone, and it's running there. And I bedded it on heatproof epoxy, and it worked really well. But the trouble is, I've since read up, and this probably doesn't enjoy running on brass. It's phosphor bronze would be more suited for it, and I had thought about trying to find a machine shop somewhere who would take this headstock, because it comes off, and get it machined to take some shells, some proper shells, phosphor bronze shells or bearings. But what I'm going to try, I'm going to try this method again, but what I've done is I've ordered some phosphor bronze strip sheet, 0.4 millimetre, and I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to put a piece under there and epoxy it in, and then I'm going to do the same with the cap. As you can see how much wear there is in the cap, it is absolutely horrendous. It just moves from side to side. It's so worn, it really is. So I'm going to do the same with the cap anyway, so we get a snug fit, because I'm not going to be using this lathe all day every day. I do need a lathe though, and this, I'm hoping this little thing I can get it fixed. I mean, I have had it up and running with that brass bearing in, and it runs really nice, but as the spindle heat starts to warm up from running, it starts locking up on this top collar. It's rubbish. It just starts tightening up, then the motor's screaming. So even with the oilers now working, so I need to also put some bigger oilers on this, maybe one with a constant drip rate that I can adjust. So I need to find a couple of them, or make a couple of them even. If anyone's got any useful, I say useful, hints or ideas on how to sort this out, let me know. Right guys, thanks for popping in, and it's a lovely sunny day and I'm in my workshop, but hey, I like being in my workshop. So I will see you very soon. I'll be get them phosphor bronze bearings next week, hopefully early on, and I'll be doing that and I'll show you what happens. It's either going to work or it's not. See you later.